Welcome back to the Book Breathing Bitch Queens podcast. I'm Allie.
And I'm Sam. And today we are going to be talking about chapter 6, where we finally get to meet and really talk to the beast person and Lucien.
All right, let's get into it.
I do kind of have a question to start off the episode.
Okay.
It's not a would you rather or a wed bed behead, but it's a theory question.
Okay.
So Tamlin is described as, right, like tan, gold hair, green eyes, right?
Mm-hmm.
Do you think that at the end of this book, when she breaks the curse and the mask comes off of his face, do you think that he has the most gnarly tan line?
That is a deep theory.
50
Hell
years.
yeah.
50 years of this mask on his face, and that motherfucker is not going to just like drop to the ground and have the worst goggle tan line.
And it's probably dirty and like so much acne under there.
Oh, you know when you take a I've never had one, but I've just heard, but like, you know when you get a cast taken off?
No, I've never broken
Oh,
anything.
okay, so neither have I, but I've heard that like when you take a cast off and like the skin itches really bad and it's like kind of gross and it's yucky and like I
Ooh,
don't
I
know,
know.
it
Can you imagine the swamp
smells.
ass but swamp
Oh,
face?
yeah. No, thank you.
Ew.
That's how you know it's magic.
Yeah, I really hope it's like feels part of their skin because that would
Yeah.
drive me fucking bonkers.
Yeah.
Like, ooh.
Yeah. But anyways, that was just a theory that I had about wearing a mask for 50 years on
It is
your
convenient
face.
they have glamoring powers, so that's probably their
Yeah,
book, but I
and
bet you it
and,
is
you
gnarly
know,
under there.
probably some sort of magic to clean underneath it.
Yeah, I hope so.
That's
What if it
wild.
died from, like, some kinda disease?
Sepsis,
That
right?
Ooh, that is
Like any of
nuts.
the teenager fae that have that are stuck from the fucking spring court, they're just like, "Right, so, like, our normal acne turned into, like, cystic acne
I've had this
and then
cyst for
got
50 years.
infected, and now we're just gonna die."
Oh my god.
Gross.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's a great way to start off chapter 6 with
Hell
with our
yeah.
with our dear beastie friend Tam Tam.
Yeah, okay, so and okay, just to summarize chapter 6 before we kinda get into it, this is basically just where she's now she's in the Supreme Court, we're done with her journey in chapter 5, and, it's her first impressions of the manor and Lucien and Alice. And it just is, like, her not wanting to eat, and then she has to go get dressed, and that's kind of basically all that
And
happens
we
in
get
this
like
chapter.
some pretty decent dialogue, not in the
Yeah,
decent in the sense of like writing, I don't know, but like decent in the sense of like, okay, things are happening, there's some story moving,
interesting.
there's some things
Yeah.
happening. And it's not just like, and he's a beast and he was scared. And then I looked at my sister
Yeah.
and she was scared. And I looked at my dad and he was scared. And then I was scared. And you're like,
Yeah.
let's talk a little more, guys. Let's hear about this.
And I think everyone's favorite is, people love Lucien, so they're like, "Oh my god,
Fair,
he's here, finally."
fair.
Yeah,
I love,
yeah.
I love Lucien.
Oh, right. I think people call him Lucien, but I always said Lucien in my head, so I'm probably gonna slip up.
That's all right.
But I think it
I
is
said
Lucien.
Printhian, so we're here we are.
Yeah. And
Why should
everybody said
what shall I
Rysand.
like why shall I fucking like troll everybody and keep saying like Briss? Briss and Crescent City, they'd be like, "What?"
Oh,
Instead of
Bryce.
Bryce. I'll
I
just troll
actually
the
did not
fuck
know what you were talking about.
I'll just troll everybody.
Oh my god.
Yeah, and then Dorian,
That's one way to get some comments though, you know what I'm saying?
it's true. Be like, "Is she
Oh.
doing this on purpose or is she just she's not is she dumb?" That's what my boss thinks. Is she doing this on purpose or is she dumb? That's the goal. That's that's the
You're like,
sweet
"Oh,
spot.
I'm dumb. Please think that."
That's the sweet spot. I'm stupid. I can't take on any more tasks.
Mhm.
Um,
Oh, and did you okay, you wanted to speak to the Veiled in Roses, right? Isn't that you had a
yes.
thing there? Yeah,
Yes.
what is you're just, like, noticing it?
Well, so we finally get the page before the gate swung open and she's like the beast walks through. We don't know, we don't see anything, right? So the gates swing open and now she's going in. So the very first sentence of chapter 6 is her very first like setting eyes on the spring court or at least on his manor, right? She says, the estate sprawled across a rolling green land. I'd never seen anything like it. Even our former manor couldn't compare. It was veiled in roses and ivy, with patios and balconies and staircases sprouting up from its alabaster sides. So the very, very first description that we get is that it's veiled in roses. And I just thought it
Mhm.
was like, the title.
Yeah.
It's just one of those things that like it's playing into the title of the book. We get it again when he like, will say I like, I love you thorns and all or whatever. Um so yeah, I just thought like one, it's not I don't know, it's not literary genius like, Court of Thorns and Roses. Like of course they're in spring court, so there's be flowers, but I
Yeah.
do love that like this is the first description that we're getting and it's centered around roses.
Yeah, plus I like the idea of veiled, like, it sort of implies because we know this is gonna be, like, not so rosy and more thorny, and so
Yeah.
it's like this the veil being like a fig an illusion is kind of, like
And there's glamour happening.
yeah, yeah, actual glamours, yeah.
Yeah, and so a lot of that too, like it's veiled in roses, like kind of hinting too that like there's veils kind of in a number of spaces and
Mhm.
degrees in the spring court, right? That she can, she can't see who's on the premises, right? And that like she has,
Yeah.
silly little dull human eyes that he has to like, I don't know, kiss to make her see shit. So like, which also seems a little scammy, but whatever.
No, that was a fuckboy scam.
Okay.
Let's be real, that's he could have done it without the little kiss, come on.
Fuckboy scam number 1. We're just gonna start, like, keeping a
Start
track
a
of it.
count, yeah.
Uh-huh.
No, that's funny. I also think it's interesting that he, like so he glamours it so that she's, like, calm, but, like, he's not it's like he just doesn't know how to I don't know, like, he doesn't know what's creepy or not, he, like, doesn't get it because she still is creeped out by it. She says, like, "I would think it was so beautiful except for it was so empty," and when I'm like, "Okay, so
Yeah,
you curated this experience for her and you sucked at it, or you don't understand her on such a fundamental level, or you're just so out of touch."
yeah,
Or, I mean, maybe it's just a hint that there's more hidden beneath the surface. It's empty. But I just thought it was funny. I'm like, you could have made this so much nicer because you have literal magic. Like,
yeah,
just make it not feel empty. Like,
yeah,
I don't
like,
know, put some
how
more
what
stuff in it.
like, you first off, you were just in a beast form, right? Or you're still in a beast form. You're a
Yeah,
fucking dog, horse, wolf, man thing, right?
something.
Who can talk,
Yeah.
who's whatever. So you're this giant beast, and you've taken me to your giant palace house where I'm gonna live with you alone. Like that's so much more like scary than being like, oh, there's Fae whose skin looks like bark. I'm in the fucking
Yeah.
Feylands. Of course there's Fae whose skin looks like bark. Like,
Yeah.
how is that less or more scary than being like, I'm gonna be alone in a house locked up with this?
That's a good point. I did not think about it like that. But yeah.
I
Yeah.
don't, yeah.
Um, man.
It also just feels so awkward because, like, let's be real. She's riding one of his friends. My theory is this horse is one of his friends. I'm sorry.
Oh,
You're not
right.
you're not gonna convince me that this horse is
It's not
not
one of the guards.
was not one of the sentries or one of the guards and just like he's like, "Fuck, I guess I pulled the fucking short stick and got to go with Lord Tamlin to carry this woman back because he can't do it on fuck himself because he can't do anything himself."
Oh my
Yeah,
god.
especially when it starts describing like when she gets off the horse, I'm like, that's such a fucking guard being like, this is a
I
bullshit
am not
job.
bending down to let you off.
Well, like, could you imagine? Like, I want like a little bit of a moment where we just like look at this whole story from the perspective of this possibly being a guard.
Mhm, mhm.
Just like, I just had this sleeping, magically tied up girl on my back for 2 days, and now she's kicking me.
Does she kick him?
Yeah, she kicks into his side. Is like, "Let's go, homie. We're gonna run away." And he's
Oh,
like,
yeah, yeah, yeah. He's like, actually, no.
he's like, No, I'm home now. Thank you. I'm good."
That is so funny. Yeah, fine. On, I see it now. That is, yeah. And of course, she's like, this is more realistic. Her wanting to get away now, but I'm still kind of like, okay, come on. We know this is not how stories go. Like, but she's like, okay, I'm
True.
gonna get away. But
Also, it's a stupid moment. Like it's and she like comes to that very quickly where like she's like, now's the time to go. And then she steps off of the horse and, like, basically falls and sees stars and all the things because 'cause she's been on a fucking horse for 2 days unconscious.
Yeah, dude, her
Um,
legs are probably so asleep.
so gross. It said, "Only a fool would run with no food and no strength. I wouldn't get a half a mile like this." Well, you're not gonna get a half a mile anyways because 'cause you're fucking human,
Yeah, and you're starving.
and there's gonna be things that you can't see that are gonna eat you, so
Mhm.
congratulations. Um Yeah, and I just felt like it felt weird. I mean, I get, like, where it's, like, the fight or flight response maybe is, like, what we're
Yeah.
trying to sort of
It's
be
finally,
told
like,
about,
feels like an
where she's like,
opportunity.
"Cool, I gotta run," this fight or flight response, but I'm like, that's I don't think it would manifest like that here, where, like, you finally get there. I would think it would be more of a freeze response that, like, "I'm
Mhm.
fucking stuck here. I can't run away because I literally can't feel my toes, and he's a fucking wolf horse."
Mhm.
Or a wolf cat. He's a wolf cat, and I'm starving, and I don't know where I'm going, and, like, really, your fight or flight is gonna be flight? No, it's gonna be freeze. You're gonna be like, "Please don't fucking kill me."
Well, and I think some people are more prone to, like I would buy that she's more prone to fight response, but yeah,
But not
it seems
flight,
crazy. Oh, right.
because it's a
Right.
flight
This is flight.
response. Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know, I thought it was weird. There is a moment on so I guess page 47, the first page of the chapter, um, where it says that the faint stench of metal tickled my nostrils. So above the array of amethyst irises and pale snowdrops and butterfly yellow daffodils swaying in the balmy breeze, the faint stench of metal tickled my nostrils. And I always just felt it was interesting that, like, one, again, we're getting this, like, she's telling us that it's magic. I don't know that it is, but right, because of course there would be magic because it's spring here. And, like, how else can it be spring here and whatever? And so she's chalking up this metallic scent to being magic, but she's not saying it's a scent and it's not a taste and it's not an odor. It's a stench.
Mhm.
So, like, that's real fucking aggressive. And
Yeah.
it's just interesting that, like, how does she know that this metallic smell is magic? Because she got real sleepy the last time she smelt it?
Yeah. I
Like,
mean, it could be like well, I think we talked about this last time. It could be like a commonly known thing that that's kind of what it tastes like,
mhm,
or it could just be that her instinct kind of knows, recognizes it, her blood recognizes it. But yeah, I kind of wonder that
because
too.
blood also is often described as copper smelling.
Yeah, yeah. And also I think it's interesting that it smells like metal because metal, I mean, metal is natural technically, but like when you think of like magic, you kind of think of like organic, like the elements, and it just feels
Airy
kind of
of
weird to have something like metal be
Yeah,
like the proof of that. Actually, I just thought of this as you were talking. It kind of makes me think of like maybe it's because this world is sort of bound by the cauldron, and the cauldron was probably like a metal object, and so I wonder if it's like a
it's a
I don't
cast iron
know,
cauldron?
like yeah,
Because
something.
that's the only way to have a cauldron.
Oh, is that
Yeah,
metal? I guess
yeah,
yeah.
it's
I guess
cast
metal could be
yeah,
a lot of
I'm
things.
mostly
Okay.
being a smartass and being like, "The only cauldron that's worth buying is a cast iron one."
Oh, okay.
But, yeah, I mean, I guess, right, cauldrons would be iron.
So yeah. Yeah, but I mean, that's kinda crazy. Also, blood is very, like, metallic smelling, so
Mhm.
maybe that's it. But maybe she's smelling her own blood because it recognizes it, but, yeah, it's a very interesting thing. If I was writing it, I might make it some kind of specific, like, natural organic smell.
Yeah, it just feel and I don't know, maybe it's, like, our own ideas of how but, yeah, magic feels, like, metaphysical, right? And so
Yeah,
for it to be, like, of metal, right, feels
uh,
weird as a description
too
for magic.
tangible. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, which I like the idea that maybe it is because of the cauldron, maybe it's because of blood. I mean, yeah, metal technically is natural. It's just because it's, like, only really
Or
usable if you manipulate it with, like, human
yeah.
that's why
I
it's
mean,
weird.
or just very simply, right, from a writing standpoint, like, she needs to tell the readers that there's some weird shit happening, and the easiest way to do that is to have the main character be like, "That's fucking weird."
Yeah, it's
You
true.
know?
Maybe another
So,
smell wouldn't have been out of place, so
yeah,
maybe that's
that's
also
fair.
why. Um, okay, I have Let me see where that is. Oh, yeah, okay, so at the bottom of 49,
Mhm.
she says, she's looking at the food, and then she says, "That was the first rule we were taught as children, usually in songs or chants. If misfortune forced you to keep company with the fairy, you never drank their wine, never ate their food, ever. Unless you wanted to wind up enslaved to them in mind and soul, unless you wanted to be wind up dragged back to Prithian." Um, okay, I just thought it was interesting that she said enslaved in mind and soul. Like,
Mhm.
it's one thing, like and also why would I mean, this kinda probably just has some roots in, like, customs with, like, food stuff. There's a lot of, like you probably know, like, history shit, like, customs around
Mhm.
if you eat, then you're safe and all that
Mhm.
kinda
Mhm.
so
Mhm.
I assume it's something along those lines, but I just it's like, you eat their food and you're enslaved mind and soul?
Yeah.
Like, that's the weird part to me is the
So
mind
it
part.
it makes me think of a couple of things. I do know of like fairy folklore that if you eat fairy food, then like one, it has this like highly intoxicating sort of effect on you where you like are not just like drunk or high, but like like fundamentally kind of lose who you are. Um and that's why you stay in the land of fairy, right? Because it like kind of steals steals your mind and your soul. So I feel like some of that does feed into some of that like folk tradition,
Oh,
but
that's definitely here too, 'cause later they're like, "You what, you don't like our food in the human world?" You
yeah.
know? So, I okay, maybe that's where that okay.
I also like though what this made me think of was like unless you want to wind up enslaved to them mind and soul, unless you want to wind up dragged back to Prithian. Now I don't know. Again, my specialty is not in like Celtic and you know northwestern European folklore. Um, but this makes me think of Persephone and Hades where Persephone eats a few of the pomegranate seeds as a way to like she has to go back to Hades because she's eaten the food of Hades, of the underworld. And so when she's like, cool, but like I want to hang out with my mom for a while, part of that negotiation with Zeus, because Zeus is a fuck boy and kind of her dad, also. It's a whole thing.
Oh
But
god.
he's like, cool, then you could like just go back and like don't worry about my brother. And she's like, but I ate some of the pomegranate seeds, and he's like, "Oh, fuck me," because like that's part of like you can't leave the underworld if you eat the food of the underworld. So I thought it was interesting that like not only is it like enslaved mind and soul, but like now it's just like you're tied to the land, you're tied to the place. That like if you eat the food of Prithian, you can be dragged back to the place.
That is okay, I like that connection, and I don't know the Greek shit well enough to have made that connection in a million years, so I love that, I was just thinking, like, the mind thing, I was like, Daimati, that was my first thought of, like, enslaved in mind,
Yeah,
um, but that's probably more along the lines although I still am wondering if this is, like, a Daimati thing because she's, like, merging these things, but
fair. Okay, can I just be a little dark for a second? And
yes.
maybe it's a human problem that I think that Feyre should have. So, I get he's a beast. Okay, I get he's literally in beast form, so he's not in man form. And like, we've all played the like bear versus man
Mhm.
game, right? Why does she not worry about becoming a sex slave? Like, I'm that would like maybe I'm just living in a different space, but like my first thought is like, cool. So you can kill me because I killed your friend, or I can come and live with you to do what?
Yeah.
To do what and who? It
Yeah.
just like I don't know, and like again, maybe I just live in a fucking true crime fucked up space, and know too many people close to me that Anyways, um, but yeah, I don't know. It's just so weird to me that like that's not even a thought, and maybe it's because like, well, if you put the thought out there in the book, then it becomes whatever. But like Reese is experiencing that, right? Reese is being
Yeah.
is in sexual servitude, and so it's not outside of the realm of possibilities even within this series. But I feel
Yeah.
like it's not even a thought for her that like what's the worst case, like absolute worst case scenario for her is that what she eats some food and she can't go back to the human world that she can't really go back to anyways because she made this deal to hang out at some fucking guy's house,
Yeah.
like to just live.
Yeah, that is interesting. I mean, maybe she just thought that if she put something like that in the first chapters as opposed to, like, the second book when we really learn about that, that people would
Sure.
not would just be turned off, or I
But
don't
I
know.
just
But
feel like
it is a natural thought to have when you're
it
scared
just
of,
feels like, well, yeah, I mean, we walk in a fucking parking lot at night and we're like,
you're
"Yep,
like
we're getting assaulted," and, like, she's getting fucking kidnapped, taken across a wall into a magical land with fairies, and it's not a thought?
Yeah, if anything, I feel like her d like, if I'm her dad, I'm like, "Okay, you gotta swear that you're not gonna do this, this, this. Like, if you're
Yeah,
gonna take
right?
her, I'd rather" like, their
Yeah,
parents would be like, "I'd rather you kill her than go and make her like a sec" yeah.
right?
Yeah,
It's just, yeah, it's just interesting to me that it's, like, not even, and maybe I just, like, so then, and I don't wanna be a dick, because right, like being taken from your homeland
yeah,
to
yeah,
go live somewhere else, like, even under the best circumstances, still sucks and is
yeah,
not great. But it just feels like, what's the stakes for her? Like, what's the absolute worst, right? Well, she has to fucking fight a worm and save a guy who sucks. That's the worst case scenario. But, like, what's
yeah.
the worst case scenario at this point for her? That she doesn't have autonomy to go back home to hang out with the shitty fuckers that she lives with?
Yeah, I think that's a lot of what people problem with these early ones is, like, people are like, "Okay, it's not that bad.
I
You're about to
also,
meet a
and, like,
hot redheaded man," kinda thing. That's
right?
what a lot
I'm
of people are
sorry,
like.
you live in a house with 2 fucking smoke show dudes. And they're
Yeah,
feeding you food that, like, once you eat it, you realize it's literally the most delicious food that you've ever eaten. It's like top tier bloomin' onion level food. And and you're like, "Worried? No, I'm sorry." But, like, again, like, that's kind of like, I think there's like a TikTok, Instagram reel, something, where it's like, if Feyre was a 30-year-old woman and, like, she's just, like, eating these chips, and she's like, "So I just gotta, like, live here
I
and
know,
just
I've seen that
like,
one, yeah.
eat and paint? Okay." Like, and
Yeah,
again, I'm a 30s-year-old white woman who would be, like, all for it, fucking take me away. Um,
yeah.
but yeah, it just feels like it's hard to worry about the character at this point, because for me, I'm like, what's at stake?
Yep, that's in these chapters, I wasn't really reading quickly. I was like, "Ah, I'll read a chapter tomorrow, whatever."
Yeah.
You know?
Um, I did write on page 48 that I would pay for a Tamlin journey perspective.
Oh, like, you mean like a whole book? Like
No, 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 no,
no,
just
you
like a
mean just
chapter.
the
I just,
just
okay,
this
well, we
part?
got 5 days of her unconscious, or we got 5 pages of her unconscious.
Oh, yeah.
So, like, just give me a chapter, like a good 12-page chapter on what that fucking journey was like for this guy with his
Yeah, like,
guard,
what I was
with his
thinking.
horse guard.
They're, like, talking and mind well, maybe they can't do that. Whatever, but
No,
yeah.
but, like, I mean, here's the thing, if Tamlin can talk in his beast form, and he's shifted his guard
Oh,
to be a
true.
horse form, I'm gonna go with they can both talk.
That's fair.
So
Okay.
now you got cat wolf and horse, mare, right? Female, beautiful white horse.
They're just shooting the shit.
Yeah, right, just moving along with,
Can
like,
you believe this?
magical bound, sleeping Hera, who weighs about 5 pounds because she's fucking starving. But then I'm like, 2 days? Does she not piss on somebody?
No, that
Like,
was my first thought when your joke last week about, like, him being a horse, I was like, "Surely he's covered in piss." Like, please tell me there's, like, JK Rowling was sort of got some shit, I don't know, whenever she
right?
said this about vanishing the piss, and I was like, "Hopefully that happens," something like that.
Yeah,
Um,
I just feel like it's such a human, like, you have a human on your back that is bound, essentially, with, like,
yeah.
magic manacles.
Well, and on a horse, you're just gonna have to pee even worse every movement.
Yeah, who's just chilling on your homie,
Yeah.
trudging along, finding the little break in the wall, snacking. Could you imagine? They, like, layer on the ground, and they go back into their, like, like, bipedal forms, and they're just, like, munching on some fucking cheese and cured meat, because that's what everybody fucking eats in these romantasy stories, and they're just watching her, like,
I know. The drool, dude. Hopefully they gave her some kind of like, actually, the drool would be insane.
yes. There's, like, so yeah, I find it, thank God she's not on her period. Could you imagine?
Hopefully
Like,
what well, it's a white horse.
the white horse.
Oh,
Yeah, I just, like, I just feel like the logistics of, like, I'm glad we don't have the chapter, but, like, I would pay for that fucking chapter to just like let's have it. Let's hear it. What was this like?
She pissed
And then
again.
well, and not only that, but like he's got to be looking at her like, yeah, I could fuck her.
Oh,
Because
yeah.
he needs her to
'Cause he's
fall in love
supposed to.
with him. So he's like,
Yeah.
right. So like that's what we're working with. Okay, like, I guess she's better than the last one that killed the wolf because she was old. That's not great. Like the one before that was a dude. Also not great. But like this is supposed to be okay. Let's make this happen.
That would be very interesting. If someone's written that fan fiction, somebody's written
Oh,
that.
I'm sure. I'm
Well,
sure.
I don't know if fan fiction is as popular with these books, 'cause I feel like it's more of a teenager definitely teenagers read this, but I don't know. But I no, not to say that adults don't write fan fiction,
I think that fan
but
fiction will become very popular when the series are done.
yeah.
That I think right now, well, I don't know. I mean, I have read a lot of like Azrael, not a lot, but I know that there's like Azrael Eris fan fiction.
Yeah. By the way,
Yeah.
I did not mean to I feel like I'm like, if anyone hears that, if anyone ever listens to this, they're gonna be like, "Well, fuck you, I'm 45 years old writing Asriel Aaron fan fiction." Like, I mean, we
Yeah.
learned to write fan fiction, let's be real. Most writers, including myself, have written a
Mhm.
bunch of fucking fan fiction. I just, like,
Yeah.
I haven't thought about fan fiction in a long time, but as a
Yeah.
teenager, I ate that shit up. That's all I wanted to
Oh
read.
yeah. Well, because you have to
Um,
wait a fucking year and a half between books. So you're like, all right, well,
yeah.
I need
I just
something.
read,
I
like, other
miss
books, but
Yeah,
yeah.
well, yeah.
Yeah.
But you're like, and sometimes you're just like, I miss these guys. I want to know
Yeah,
about these
true.
guys. And so and like that's
True.
still what we're doing, right? The theorizing
Yes.
is just low effort fan fiction. Right?
Yeah, instead of
Like
creating, like, actual
this is
characters, we're just
better.
chatting.
Yeah, like we're
Yeah.
actually making a podcast and then there's editing and there's some creative things that go into it. But like in the grand scheme of thing, this is lazy fan fiction.
That's awesome. Okay. That is
We've redeemed
actually
ourselves amongst the fan fiction writers. They're like, "Fuck yeah, you
and
know your place."
hell yeah. That is so funny. Okay, sorry, I feel like I got us off track.
That's okay.
There's not on a track, let's be real.
Can I tell you that I fucking hate a black and white checkered floor?
Like, because it's not your taste or you don't like that it's
I
a
no.
description here?
No, I mean, I'm okay with it being a restriction. I think a black and white checkered floor is the tackiest, most outdated thing I've ever seen in my life, and I see it because I am a millennial who one day hopes to own a house, and so I torture myself by looking at houses on the market that I cannot afford right now, and anytime their fucking kitchens have a black and white tile floor, I'm like, "Ugh." Like, are we 90? Are we 90 years old? What is
Mhm.
this? Are we trying to build a fucking 50s style diner? No, get it out.
Okay, I will say the only time it looks good is in a mansion, like a disgusting, insane mansion, because it only looks good with gigantic
Opulent, because it's
tiles.
yeah.
Like the little checkered floor, that's crazy. I pictured, like, huge checkers, and so it's like
Alright, I still think that it's, like, really,
it's
really
cartoony kind of.
yeah,
Yeah,
I just feel like just white. Just do like, let's be real, it's Tamlin. He's all
yeah,
like, you the whole fucking side of his it's alabaster castle.
yeah.
Why you spending time having some black tile up in here, my man? Just splat
Hardwood floors, come
yeah,
on.
right. No, see, but hardwood wood floors are for good guys. That's why they're in the night court. The spring court can't have wood floors. They're not the good guys. Like nice, beautiful aged mahogany floor. Like, come on, like pristine, original. Yeah, that's good guy shit. That's
Good
no.
point.
Yeah, no. Tamlin doesn't get that. Tamlin, yeah. Well, and also it's like I feel like it's supposed to be. There's a weird, like overly opulent aspect to Tamlin that feels like an indicator of him being a shit dude. Because like when I mean, and this is like a historical thing too, right? Like when the king has everything and the people don't, right?
Yeah, like
Like
Versailles.
yeah,
Yeah.
right? The I mean it's not a real accurate quote, so go fuck yourself when you get crazy with me, but like like the let them eat cake, right? The the basically any French monarch who's been accused of letting his people starve. Um this is what this
Mhm.
feels like to me that like one right now, we don't think anybody's there. So this guy has a house that's like way, way over the fucking top for what he needs. So like already you're taking a girl from a shack who's starving and what could look like, fuck yeah, look where I get to live is kind of dirty because it's like, we're starving, my man, and
Yeah.
you live here by yourself? Like
Yeah.
the just like the waste of it.
I'm surprised she's not more mad about that, actually.
And even outside of that, knowing that, like, okay, but then the veil comes off and she can see all the people and like it's actually a whole court, it's a whole system, blah, blah, blah. Even with that, though, like, Prithian's in a real shit fucking position right now, and you're just sitting cozy in your fucking black and white checkered floor, my dude. Like, go do
Seriously.
something, sending out your sentries to fucking be killed
Yeah.
because your mate put a curse on you.
Mhm.
Like,
It
I
is so,
I
like
just
that's why
and
people should
then
hate him.
because when we get to page, 300 or whatever, and the motherfucker doesn't do a goddamn thing and blames it on, like, trying to keep her alive, fuck off, Tam.
I
Like,
know.
what?
Well, because
Everything
he
ab
never really loved her.
e
Yeah.
even
Yeah.
still,
Yeah.
I just well, I mean, I don't know. I don't know if I fully subscribe to the never really loved her, only because in the later
Mm.
book, when Reese sees him and he's all fucked up, and he comes back and he tells Feyre, like, "Ooh, Tam's not doing so great." He says, he still loves you. And
Oh.
and she's like, "Yeah, that sucks."
I guess. I kind of always just assumed he just didn't like losing. But he
Sure,
did you're right, that is a
I'm
quote that
on
he does
board
say
with
that,
that, but I
so
also and
and
again,
so probably a
like,
little both.
just because Reese can reach into somebody's mind doesn't mean that he did, right? And so maybe it could just be like, "Wow, this guy looks real fucked up right now." To like,
Yeah.
this is a sign that he loves her. I'm like, not really. Not unless you scoop out
Yeah.
his brain right now and try to figure out if that's what it is. And
Yeah.
can he tell the genuinity? No, what the genuineness? What is the word for that?
I don't know.
Anyways,
No. Yeah.
can he like tell what the true emotional attachment is to the thoughts?
Yeah.
I got
No,
thoughts
yeah.
I got thoughts all day long, right? And like
Uh-huh.
doesn't necessarily mean that there's like a sort of, a deep-seated connection to it. So like even if he is in his brain and it's replaying Feyre, 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 is that love? Is it regret? Is it poor sportsmanship? Right? Like,
Mhm.
and so I
Yeah.
am wondering if there's like a limitate. There has to be a fucking limitation to Reese because good God, he just can't do all the things. It's annoying.
I know, we had a
Um,
whole conversation about that the other night too.
yeah. So I'm just wondering if like, yeah, like if he actually loved her, didn't love her, or and if it even matters.
Yeah, although I like what you say about the, like, inaction, I feel like I don't know, this is probably where you might know, but, like, I wonder if it's, like, he is I don't know if there's, like, there probably is, but mythical characters who are, like, known for being specifically inactive or, like I don't know, but I'd wonder it almost seems pointed, like, at every turn he is, like, not doing stuff.
Mhm.
Like, he's just I almost wonder if there is some kind of greater illusion here that I just don't know because I don't know a lot of myths and stuff.
Well, and it's done under the guise of
Keeping the peace.
well, and protecting her, actually, right? That like
Yeah.
the more he shows interest in her, the more it's gonna piss Amarantha off, and the harder she's gonna be. My man.
Oh, in the court, yeah.
Yeah, but yeah, I don't know.
But the 50
Just
years before,
yeah, right. You've had 49 years, my dude, and you
like,
just
what were you
chilling,
thinking about? You were just like
right? You're just taking the tithe and playing with your dick and riding horses that are guards. Like, what are you
yeah.
doing? Sending someone else out to do his fucking work.
That's
And
dude, that's
that's what drives me nuts
crazy.
about Tamlin, is that and I think it's supposed to. I think Tamlin is supposed to feel like a monarch, where
Mm.
Reese is not supposed to feel like that, even though he's in a monarchical type
He's a
of
president.
yeah, exactly. That
Yeah.
because he represents his people, right? Versus
Tamlin is
Tamlin.
like a brat king, and
Yeah.
Reese is like yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. It's just like the more I'm like rereading some of this early Tamlin stuff, I'm like, oh God, he fucking sucks.
Yeah.
Um, and I don't know how I feel about a Tamlin redemption arc. feel like I am totally fine with him just being shit for forever. And
Yeah.
sometimes people just suck and it's okay. I don't think that we need to fall in love with Tamlin again. I think that this was his opportunity to have us fall in love with him. And the
And he took
point
it?
is that he failed.
Yeah.
I don't think that he should live happily ever after. I think he should just live.
Yeah, and I think, like, I definitely don't like a redemption arc for just a redemption arc's sake. Like, I want it
Mhm.
to be, like, legit, but, I kind of feel like it will happen, but maybe because I feel like there's more to him still, because he's, like, sort of such a big role within the larger story that I'm
Yeah.
like, maybe there's something else there, but, yeah, I hope it doesn't feel like we gotta make all the characters good guys now. Like,
Yeah.
they either die or they
Yeah.
become good guys.
Yeah, right?
So
You're like,
that's what I hope it's
that's
not
not
for me.
great. Like,
Yeah,
that's yeah.
that's icky.
Yes.
Yeah, I also love how on 51 it's like he's saying his fear. He says, in the middle of 51, she's like, doesn't want to eat the food, and he's like, you can leave if you want. I'm not your jailer. The gates are open. You can live anywhere else in Prithian. And I'm just like, actually,
Fucking
you
lies, my dude.
you're about to be described constantly with
Yeah.
prison imagery. But I was like, oh,
Uh, I had a moment on page 50 where, in a flash of white light, he turns into a golden haired
mm,
man. We are like, all right. But then the next one, right? I stifled a cry and pushed myself against the paneled wall beside, also paneled wall. Come on, Tamlin, update your fucking interior design. But anyways, pushed myself up against the paneled wall beside the door, feeling for the molding of the threshold, trying to gauge the distance between me and escape. This beast was not a man, not a lesser fairy. He was one of the high fae, one of the ruling nobility, beautiful, lethal, and merciless. How does she know this?
this I really did chalk up to, like, it's sort of known that they look like humans except they're tall and have long fingers and ears and creepy. Like, I
But
that's I
so
assumed
does
it that, but
Lucian, and he's not a high, well, I guess she doesn't know he's High Lord.
she knows
Okay.
he's high fae,
High
yeah.
fae.
Yeah. That's what I assume is it's something like that.
Alright.
Um,
That he's not lesser fae because he doesn't look like Alice,
yeah, he's
and he's
not like
pretty.
a sprite or something, yeah.
Alright.
Or he just looks human. That's what I would guess, but it is kinda like although, I also like that she's not like, "I had heard in many stories growing up around," like, at some point that becomes too pointed, so,
That's true.
yeah.
Alright.
Yeah, yeah, but maybe not, it is interesting. Oh, okay, also, wait, is this on this page? The very first thing we see Lucian do is bow to Tamlin.
Because he's a fucking horse. No, just kidding. Yes.
I
Yes.
hated it, I hated it. Yeah, it says he's
I
bow, and I'm like, "Ugh," like, I don't know. Makes Reese look better, much better by example, the first
sure.
impression we see of them is, like, banging on his door and calling him names, I think, right? Um,
I don't know, there's, like, a moment when she, like, sees the horse for the first time that the horse, like, pretty much bows to him, right?
wait, the horse?
Yes.
Oh,
So it's on page 42. It's the beginning of chapter 5, right? We entered the line of trees, darkness beyond beckoned, or whatever. But a white mare was patiently waiting, unbound, beside the tree, her coat like fresh snow in the moonlight. She only lowered her head as if in respect of all things,
oh,
as the beast lumbered by. So she bows to him too.
interesting. Okay, yeah, and especially if it is you think the horse is Lucien, or you just think
No,
the
I
horse
don't.
is
I don't. But that's
okay, okay.
fucking funny if it was.
Yeah,
She's
but
like,
maybe it's a
I'm
guard.
gonna pretend that I didn't just spend the last 2 days with this motherfucker on my back, and I'm gonna come in and be like, "Is Andres dead?" Because that's gonna be really great way to have this conversation start, even though I totally know that he's dead. Because she wrote on me.
She smelled like him.
Yeah. What?
She had his skin under her fingernails.
Ew. Uh,
Sorry.
that's no, it's fine. I mean, I listen to true crime. It's not. Yeah, it's pretty straightforward.
That's so
Where
funny.
does he bow? I want to.
Okay, let me see. Yeah, and okay, so 50 is like where we get a lot of the descriptions, which I feel like, maybe one day we'll have like a Tamlin episode and we can get into it, but I feel like there's nothing that interesting. I mean, there's
No.
whatever. I was
He's
just
got
like,
a
yeah,
big house,
okay.
he's got fancy food and wine, and he's hot, and he's got pointy ears, that's cool.
Yeah. Okay, so it's on 51?
Yeah, because well, the stranger said, another high fae, red-haired, and finely dressed in a tunic of muted silver, he too wore a mask. He stretched a bow to the seated male and then crossed his arms. Did he do
Yeah.
this?
I think so, something like that.
That's
Maybe or
gross.
I think just saying sketched about is maybe just
Oh, sketched
like
it.
this,
Right,
like
yeah.
it's
Mhm.
just kind of like a half-assed bow is kind of what I interpreted. But yeah, maybe it's like one of the hand motions. I realized this is a podcast and
A
yeah, he,
little
like, did the
yeah.
spinny hand in the air, but I think yeah, I just thought
My
it was interesting
lord.
that it mentions it. Maybe
Yeah.
it's just meant to make him look like build up his authority, but you're right, we have the only 2 beings we see interact with Tamlin have both bowed to him first,
Yeah.
um, which seems nice at first and icky second.
But how does he not know she's there? Sorry, you got Faye hearing and Faye scent. Clearly, you know what he went out to do,
Uh-huh.
and
I
you
assume he's
don't
just
notice her?
I always thought this was a theater scene, this is they're acting it out
Oh,
so that
oh. I mean, I thought it was bullshit too, but like now that you're saying it, it's like even as early as this point, they're acting.
'cause a lot of times when, like, 'cause I don't know if we confirmed this or if I just had this theory on my own that, like, he intended for her to overhear things so that it would prompt
Yeah.
her to do things. That's confirmed, right?
I don't know
Okay,
if it's
okay.
confirmed, but we talked about it last episode.
Oh, okay, yeah, so I kinda think they do this a lot, like, especially with the other scenes where he's like, "Stay away from" I don't know, some shit like that. But it is interesting. If not, like, intentional, yeah, it's like, you don't notice her?
I mean, I guess when your friend hangs out for 4 days, right? If it's a 2-day ride back, it was a 2-day ride into, right? So
Uh-huh.
when your homie is gone for 5 days in human lands, I guess you expect him to come back and smell like shit. So maybe he
Yeah,
didn't smell Feyre, but even still, it just feels a little like they're always talking about how heightened their senses are, and then you're like, he just walked past. Like, come on,
yeah, and she was just talking.
yeah, you didn't hear that from fucking outside, my dude, with your big old ears. Come on.
Yeah.
I also found, I mean, and now like looking at in light where it's like very much a like play for them. Like, right, he cocks his head, right? So Tamlin does a movement that's more animal than human, clearly playing up his nonsense. And then Lucian asks, "Is Andres dead then?" And he nod, and a nod from my captor, savior, whatever he was. I highlighted that and was like, "Huh, we're already."
Already getting
Because
Stockholm
like,
syndrome.
well, yeah, because like before she's like, "Is he my captor? Is he my savior?" I think we've already had that
Oh,
sort of
yeah.
something happening, and here it is again, where she's like still wrestling with this, like, did he steal me or did he save me? And I I don't yeah.
Well, that at
It
least
just
makes it
feels I feel it feels very 19-year-old, I think, to me. I think
yeah,
that's what it is that in this moment, you're like, "Wow, Vera, you're kinda, like, not dumb, but, like, there's a, like,
a little all over the place.
yeah, and, like, a naivete that's happening, and, like, I don't know what to think about this." The things that do come to, like, my mind, apparently as an old fucking lady now with kids of my own, like, the bells and whistles that are setting off in my head, I'm like, "Well, yeah, but, like, I've already had a fucking Tamlin type relationship, so I see red flags," and, like,
Yeah.
where she doesn't see that, and you're like,
She
"Alright,
doesn't
well, I
really
guess."
have experience
If
at
I was
all.
19, I would have fucking fallen for Tamlin too, cause I did.
Yeah. No
So,
offense to 19-year-olds, but I was dumb as rocks as a 19-year-old, and
yeah,
I
and
probably would've done some Feyre shit, to be fair.
it only takes a little bit of fucking trauma to make you very susceptible
Totally.
to
And she's got a lot
manipulative
of trauma.
people. Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
exactly. Right? Like,
Uh,
it's like I ended up in a relationship that's very similar to mine is the magic, but, like, the dynamics between Tamlin and Feyre, like,
uh-huh.
I can see how someone would get there because on the very surface level of this story, it's a very real type of story, right? You have a girl who is in a position of need and desperation, and you have someone who exploits that.
Yeah.
And it's not hard, right? It's like it is the tale that's old as time. In fact, if we're gonna go with the Beauty and the Beast reference here. Um,
Yeah.
but yeah, I don't know. It just always felt like a little bit like, "Ugh, come on. Like, is he my savior? No, motherfucker, because you save yourself. Like,
Yeah.
get with it. Get with it. You
Well,
don't
it does kinda support, like, why is she having these reactions? She's not really scared or she's, like so maybe it's because she sort of is kinda likes it already, but
yeah,
that at
that's
least
fair.
could make that work a little bit. But, yeah, I would've done some shit
This
too.
whole conversation about how she killed Andres is I don't know, I felt it was fun to read.
Yeah.
I was like, "Ooh, some drama. Okay."
How an ash arrow.
Well, and, like, I don't know, the idea of, like I don't know, I feel like when I first read this, I was like, "Ooh, hello, redhead. Ooh, and you're angry, let's go."
I was not thinking that. I was like, "Okay, there's a guy." I, like, don't perceive I don't know, maybe I'm
The
crazy,
whole
but
time, I just kept being like, "Really? Tamlin? Okay."
yeah,
But they set it up that way, though, like, they very like, she could not have fallen in love with anybody else. They manipulated the situation, and you're right, it does begin here.
yeah, yeah. Well, and to be fair, their lives depend on doing it, so they're getting
Sure.
a crash course in
Well,
acting.
they and, like, they don't know her, like, maybe she is a fucking asshole, and they're like, "Whatever," so, like
Yeah,
and right, if what needs to be done is that someone falls in love with you, like, what's the worst case scenario? You break their heart? Okay. I break
yeah,
their heart and I save a continent. Alright,
yeah, yeah.
okay. It's not like
She's
you have
down
to,
to
like
do that, yeah.
yeah, which right? And it's like it's not like they have to, like, sacrifice her or, like, kill a bunch of people to do it, which is maybe what he should have been doing in the first place, but, yeah, so, like, yeah, it's morally yuck, but I guess it could be worse.
Yeah, yeah.
The there's no, Tamlin's mask is just pretty, right? But Lucia's is fox-like,
Oh.
right?
Yeah, a lot of them actually have is Tamlin the only one that doesn't have an animal mask? What does it say?
I
It
don't
says
think
it on the
so.
page before. That is interesting.
He was young, or at least what I could see of his face seemed young. His nose, cheeks, and brows were covered by an exquisite gold mask embedded with emeralds, shaped like whorls of leaves.
Okay, so he's like spring itself is his
We
costume,
also
maybe?
have whorls again.
Good point. Okay, you're
Yeah.
oh, I hope it's not just that I didn't notice that word because I really was like, I only see it with Reese's tattoos, but now we have
Yeah, we
whatever.
we got some
We'll watch for him.
whirls. Yeah, some absurd high fae fashion, no doubt. It left his eyes, blah 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 blah. But yeah, no, it's just it's an exquisite gold mask with emeralds.
Yeah, and I think it's like it's meant to like I picture it like looking like leaves in the wind type shit.
It's gold and green.
I know. No. No. No, no. Yeah.
Grandmother Aelin. Yeah, no, I'm
Actually,
just
I like
saying.
your theory about them actually being it's Lysandra and Adians.
I'm down with
Because
that too.
then yeah,
Yeah.
then it's still a connection, but it's not like it's not my
But you're
girl.
not gonna fuck me up with some like telling me that this motherfucker comes from Rowan because he can't. Although I came from my parents and like I'm pretty chill, so and they suck.
True.
So like I suppose it
People
could
can
work
be
the
different.
yeah, it could work
Yeah.
the opposite way.
Um, um,
So the
okay, I
fox mask, can I just like for a second? So I think that I can't at some point she's like, "Oh, I get the fox mask now," or whatever because he like does something. But foxes, historically speaking, are tricksters.
mhm.
And now we have Lucian in the Night Court.
Mm. Oh,
Tricksters steal shit and fuck shit
yeah.
up just because they ain't got shit to do. I just
Yeah,
and
I
they're deceitful and self like for selfish purposes, right? Loki is a trickster god, which is like the most like iconic and like easy way to explain it to like listeners who maybe don't have like, a
okay,
degree in
guess what Loki means? I just googled it.
what's it mean?
It means lock, which isn't
What?
that interesting, but it's interesting in the greater context of like
Huh.
I mean, I think it's interesting. Anything it's like, like the lock from Throne of Glass.
Oh.
That was what my mind went to. But actually, what I was gonna say is, so Lucien has a last name. Autumn Court is tied to Crescent City. Crescent City has last names, and they're Norse gods. So maybe he's just that god's Loki and he's stuck in some kind of in this place or some type of
Wait,
shit like that.
sorry. I'm sorry. Back up.
Okay. Okay, so Crescent City is Norse gods. And
Okay.
I've to be fair, I've always thought, like, maybe Bryce is the Loki or something, like, I've had these conversations with Caleb trying to figure out who's
Mhm,
the
mhm.
what, um, with Rhysand being
That
Odin maybe, but, I mean, who knows? Sorry, go ahead.
okay. No, no, so you're saying that, like, their Crescent City is inspired by Norse mythology.
Yes, like, very it's definite ties to Norse mythology for
Okay.
sure,
Mhm.
but then okay, so there's, like, everyone a lot of the all the I think all the Fae in Crescent City have last names, whereas, like, none of them do here except for, like, Lucian and apparently Rhys, but we also know that Rhys looks exactly like Rune. So maybe
Mhm.
they're both from
Mhm.
there, and that's why they have the last names, or maybe just last names are just
Hmm.
whatever. But yeah, I just think it's interesting, and also we know that Autumn Court has specific ties to Crescent City, and
Yes.
then I just as you were saying this, I was like, well, maybe he's like that low key or something, or yeah, because I could see him. I hope he's not a real trickster and he's not gonna fuck us over. I really hope not. I hope he's a trickster for Tamlin
Although
or in this
yeah,
greater
that would be nice,
narrative
but I do think right, and again, this is all, like, one interview that she said that there was gonna be a
a
great
betrayal.
betrayal in this next book. I think that it would hurt more for the readers if it's Lucian.
It would.
More does it, we're like, "Yeah, that bitch be lying since the beginning. What do you mean your fucking power is truth? Suck it." Um,
Maybe it's gonna be Elaine.
I can see that. I'm okay with that.
Oh,
I feel like yeah, I'm whatever. I'm not attached to Elaine right now. I'm excited to be attached to her after this next book, but whatever. Elaine could be a bad guy. I'm happy with it. Let's go. Uh,
that's so
although
funny.
she did kill Highburn. Nobody thinks
True.
about that. Everyone's like, "Oh,
Maybe
Nesta killed
she's
him."
the
No,
Loki, and together they're both Loki because 'cause they're mates.
maybe. Although she did kill him with truth teller, right?
Oh, that is another weird kinda tie to Crescent City.
Yeah. Well, because well, and it's also like, where we get like the Azrael is got has a thing for her, right? Because he's like, take my sword.
Maybe Crescent City tie-in is why that maybe the shadows come from Crescent City shit, and they recognize something in her from maybe she's got some kinda lineage there or something to do with it. It's
All I'm
kind of
saying is we need some more books. We need some more
yeah.
good books, please. Um,
Mhm.
take your time, Sarah. Like, maybe not with this next one. You've had some time. Speed it up.
Yep,
But like with the
enough,
Crescent
yeah.
City books, like maybe pump the brakes a little bit. Think it through.
Yeah, those
And
are
I
it's
don't
very
care about
interesting.
I'm so uninvested in the fucking mermaid. Crescent
Oh,
City.
yeah. Yeah,
I mean, I
yeah.
like him, but, like, I feel like it's also a Nesta situation where I'm like, "Alright, I know enough about him, but he's, like, kinda one-dimensional. He's a
You're
fucking
not interesting
asshole."
enough yet, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But anyway,
okay,
that's a side note.
I also am wondering, I know this is still right in this same part, but what the fuck is Lucian seeing in Feyre? Like, what does that magic eye actually see? Is it, like, just does it perceive magic things? Does it read her thoughts? Does she like, we don't know anything about this eye, do we? But
No?
it seems like it's got some kind of power, like, I don't know, an eye being mechanical, eyes already have a lot of symbolism, like, he always seems like he knows stuff, right? Doesn't we always get that impression? And I'm like,
Yeah.
what if he just sees? Because he's I don't know. What I mean, maybe he can tell stuff with or I don't know, I really wanna know more about the eye.
Yeah, I don't know. I
Not
always
allowed to go
and
off.
I need to, like, kinda look back because there's a mention of the person who made the eye that comes from a place that does some other shit that
Dawn Court, and she's the one who makes the
eh,
antidote for the
yeah,
yeah.
yeah, but and Dawn Court's the one with all of the smarty pants, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
When we were talking about it, it reminded me of especially because, like, yes, it's a mechanical eye, but it's sort of medicine-y, right? Like, it's healing. It made me
Yeah.
think of, what is her name? Kale's
Oh,
chick.
Irene.
Yes, thank you. And, like, the Citadel for healers or whatever the fuck it was.
Mm.
I don't know, just maybe it had that sort of it triggered
Maybe like a
that. That was
Twin
that was
City
the
kinda thing.
neuron that fired together that moment.
Interesting. Yeah, okay, I'm really interested to see
And the
more
idea
about
of like
those things.
like giant libraries and citadels and houses of wisdom. I mean, first off, I'm a fucking history major, so like all that shit is just like
It's in every
Yeah, like,
society
well,
and
and it
yeah.
just, like, speaks to me, it's like the
Mhm,
thing that historians are most pissed about is, like, the Library of Alexandria being burned. We
mhm.
still haven't gotten over it, so, like, like, when we're in
Yeah.
these books, I'm like, "Cool, where's the Citadel? Where are we learning stuff? Where are the books? Where's the records? Where's the lore? Where would I go if I wanna be like, 'What the fuck is happening here?' Like, where's my history books?" Right? Um,
Mhm.
so something about that felt similar. But again,
Yeah,
it's like every world is gonna have education and houses of wisdom.
true.
It'd be weird if
Yeah.
it didn't. Um,
Actually, kind of with that, that's what my next sort of thing is. Do you think that the okay, Lucian, this is what he says to her. He's saying some shit about her or to her, and Tamlin very condescendingly says, "Behave, Lucian," and then it says Lucian went rigid, but he hopped off the edge of the table and bowed deeply to me. My apologies, lady. Another joke at my expense. I'm Lucian, courtier and emissary. He gestured to me with a flourish. Your eyes are like stars and your hair like burnished gold.
he's being an asshole is what he's doing.
Yeah, it definitely reads like that, but also the eyes like stars and hair like burnished gold just kind of reminds me of like some shit you'd read in like a scripture from some kind of religion. Like it's because it's weirdly like he just thought of that on the maybe what is I don't know burnished I don't know, but I just to me it sounds like a
Burnished gold. It's
prophecy
like
almost,
yeah.
but
So
maybe it's nothing.
highlighted stuff right above this.
Oh, okay.
Um, right, the golden hair one, I start with anyways is where I do. But so the golden hair one said nothing, but his jaw tightened as they studied me, which is really awkward that they're just like
Dairy. Yeah.
right, with masks on. I reached for my knife that wasn't there. Anyway, the fox masked one continued, facing his companion again with a sneer. He would likely laugh if I ever drew a weapon on him. Perhaps there's a way to. And then he says, Lucian, behave. Because he's
Mm.
about to say, perhaps there's a way to break the curse.
Oh, I thought he was gonna say, like, killer or something, or I don't know.
No, I think Lucian knows that Andres was sent out
Yeah.
to be killed, right? Like he's been doing this for 40 years and like they stopped doing it because all of his fucking wolves kept dying and he felt bad about it and it was like okay, well we're coming up on the 50 years, so fuck it. Let's like try one last fucking group of wolves and Andres was like, "Oh, I volunteer as tribute." And so Lucian knows what is happening. He knows why she's being brought back. He knows all the things. So one, either this is a play and they're setting these little trappy moments for her, or he doesn't realize that she shouldn't know this because then it's a lot harder to make someone fall in love with you and you're like, "Hey, so like I really need you to like me."
Yeah.
Right?
I don't think Lucian's, like, would say something stupid like that,
That's the
but
other thing.
maybe
So then it's
yeah.
like if you're not gonna say something stupid like that, then are you setting these breadcrumbs so that I'm like, perhaps there's a way to do what? What do you need?
I thought yeah, because later he sort of jokes that we should just kill her and be done with it. That's what I thought, but, yeah, that's interesting. I will also say, the trappy things, I mean, he basically straight up asked her if there was hatred in her heart, and I was
Yeah,
like,
no,
"He's
exactly. Yes.
checking."
Yeah, he's checking for sure.
Yeah,
Um,
which is interesting.
where does he ask that? Oh yeah, I see it, yeah. Did you hesitate or was there hatred in your heart, writing you too hard to consider sparing him? And she's just sitting there like, wow, these guys are fucking assholes.
Yeah.
Like, they're talking about me like I'm not standing right here, and now that they're gonna address me, they're asking me really weird fucking questions. Do I have hatred? Like, come on, you know what happened.
Hatred in my heart? What the fuck does that mean?
Like,
Yeah.
yeah, and then but I think it's enticing enough that, like, if we think about this as, like, this is scripted, right,
Mhm.
to some degree, that, like, it's already being manipulative, right? That you have
Yeah.
good guy, or bad guy, lesser bad, like, there's lots of mystery happening here. And then you have Lucian who ends up being the interrogator. So he becomes the bad guy, right?
Yeah.
Because Tamlin could have been like, "Cool, trial. What happened?" Right? And like makes her relive this moment where that she
Oh,
she killed
true.
the wolf, but it's Lucian who gets to do this, right? So
Yeah.
makes her feel like shit. And then once they break her down, then he says, "Perhaps there's a way to." And Tamlin goes, "Behave yourself." So then already you're like, Well, I owe them my life. Like, that's what I'm here for because I'm paying for this debt that I did, and I wanna find a way to get out of there. There has to be a loophole. We're already beginning to see that she has this in her head, like, "Oh, maybe there's a loophole. Maybe I can get some help." So when he says, "Perhaps there's a way to,"
Mm.
it just feels like they're giving her enough breadcrumbs to, I don't know, to be invested in them in a way that's not organic.
Yeah, I think that's fair. That's interesting. Yeah, this whole part is very interesting and kind of weird. It's always like first impressions are interesting. Also, okay, this is a little bit down actually right after the eyes like stars line. I still think that's a weird ass line that sounds like a to me it sounds like a prophecy. Like
Okay.
there's some I don't know. But that's kind of like there's absolutely no basis to support that. Just that's the vibes. But right
Yeah.
after that, it's like he says that and he expects her to say his he just assumes she's gonna say his name as a response to that. I don't
Well,
that's kind
because
of
he gave
interesting.
her his name.
Oh, right, okay.
Because if
Fair.
I would like, if I was like, "Hey, I'm Sam," and you're like, "Cool."
Yeah, true.
Like, even with being a dick, I guess, but, like,
That's
yeah,
true.
like, it's yeah.
Okay, and but then so I do think it's interesting, especially since names have a whole thing. She doesn't give Lucian her name. Hamlin gives him her name, and that was just one of those things I just noted down as like
Tamlin also gives
people.
her Lucian's name.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that is
Yeah.
interesting. It's like an interesting like non-autonomy, like especially if a name is meant to be like yeah, like kind of like your being. It's kind of an interesting like yeah, like lack of autonomy in a
Yeah.
weird way. Whereas like with Amarantha,
Well, eh
she has to willingly give up her name,
yeah.
and it's like a whole thing. And then she does it really for Lucian.
Yeah.
Um,
But, yeah, I think that it speaks to, again, like, the ways in which we're supposed to have this repeated imagery of Tamlin being the leader
yeah, yeah,
and being
definitely.
in control and having power.
And that's what the bows are about too,
Yeah,
yeah.
right. Everyone bows to him. He's the one who has the ability to speak people's names and kind of yeah, again, like, does the knowledge of one's name bring power kind of a thing. So,
Yeah.
um
Um,
I have lots of things highlighted on 54.
okay, yeah, we meet Alice right then, and then we're taken back. Yeah.
This is when it's like the she's supposed to be leaving, right? Alice led me away. Room, not cell. That was a small reality. And then she hears this conversation. This is what you're saying they meant for her to overhear, right?
Actually, there's stuff that happens later too, but yes, this is one of those
Yeah.
things.
So yeah, I'd barely made it a few steps before Lucian growled. That's what the hand of the cauldron dealt to us. She brought Andros down. We never should have sent him out there. None of them should have been out there. This was a fool's mission. So he's well aware of what they were doing. Also, I wrote in the margins, really an Uggo? It's kind of what it feels like when Lucian's like, this is what the cauldron dealt us? Really? She's fucking ugly, my dude. Good luck. Like, it just feels like that because 'cause you're like, "Do you wanna go bathe?" Ugh.
Gross. That's funny. Yeah.
Yeah, and then but we're already right there, like, we as the readers are already getting a glimpse into, like, there's something bigger happening, and now knowing what does happen, it's very clear
Yeah.
what they're talking about, right? The
Yeah.
conversation is like, "We shouldn't have sent them out there, this is a fool's mission because you're never gonna get her to fall in love with you because like, yikes. Um, Maybe we should just take a stand." Well, it's been 49 years, my dude, yeah, maybe. Um Maybe it's time to say enough. Dump the girl somewhere, kill her. I don't care. She's nothing but a burden here. She'll sooner put a knife in your back than talk to you, any of us. So already, again, being like, you're not going to get her to fall in love with you, dude. Like, that's impossible. And like, I know I'm being like kind of a smartass with being like, really, she's not cute. But like, I think the amount of hatred that he thinks lives in her heart, he's like, this is an impossible fucking task. I get she already did like the first 30% of what the curse is supposed to do, but like you're not this isn't going to work. Like maybe we should take a stand. You're like, "Yeah, no shit." Um
Now, do you think that because I actually also assumed so in this way of portraying Tamlin as a hero, like it sort of feels like maybe it's meant to be like a false danger, like Lucian saying, "Let's just kill her," and because they probably assume that she's going to wonder about that, and then Tamlin is the one who said, who clearly has the authority, as we've noted, and then he's the one who's like, "No, she lives," and it's like he also says the hovel was hell enough, and it's like he's sort of like the reason that she's allowed to live is because he has a specific pity about for her or
But
something. So
it's
I think he's
not. Yeah, I mean, yes, but I also feel like it's very clear that he's like, no, Tamlin says, not until we find out for certain there's no other way we'll make a move. So again, he's even like, no, I'm gonna try to make her fall in love with me. Until we know that
yeah.
that's an impossibility, unless you think that I can't get that girl who has come from fucking nothing and I picked her up out of
Mhm.
literally a pile of shit to fall for this. Come on.
Yeah, but he does say that she'll be safe either way, so I think that's
Sure.
yeah, and that probably is meant to be overheard, but, yeah, no, it's very interesting, sort of the multiple dynamics.
Well, and it's questionable as far as like, is this something that they want her to overhear? Because it feels like it. She barely makes it a few steps out of the room,
Oh,
right?
true.
So here's my theory. Either they don't know that humans have shittier hearing than Fae. If you're going to assume that she can hear as well as you can, you are very clearly saying it in front of her.
Yeah.
Or you are so ignorant of humans that you think that they're literally deaf and you start this conversation immediately. Or you intended for her to hear.
Yeah, yeah, and I kinda think they do. I mean, it's probably the only natural way to make someone actually unafraid is to, like, have them hear your honest answer, "No, we can't kill her."
Yeah.
So maybe that's yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. Especially with like the next, I highlighted the next one that's like, you've got your work cut out for you, old son. I'm sure her life will be fine, a fine replacement for Andres. Maybe she can even train with the others on the border. Like, what did Lucian disagree with this the whole time? Right? Did he disagree with Andres going over the wall before he went? Did he
Probably to some extent, because I imagine he doesn't like people having to die for this shit. But maybe it's either an act or I think I can see it
that
being a little bit of both.
well, that or like, this was the last group of guards, I guess, that could have really gone because everybody else already did.
Yeah.
Didn't work out. Sorry, that's a horrific yawn to have on a podcast. But like, yeah, I don't know. It is questionable as to like, is Lucian playing it up? Are they like playing into this moment of this like getting her to, I don't know, fall into a trap of some sort? Um, it would just be interesting to see what the conversation was like, a week before.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, I'm sure it was a lot more stressed out, but yeah.
Also, can we note that she gets a turquoise dress?
She does? I thought it
Yeah,
was
page
purple for some
55.
reason.
No, page 55. Still, I took one look at the velvet turquoise dress Alice had placed on the bed and wrapped my white dressing gown tightly around me, sinking into the chair and pleading for my old clothes to return. Just saying, it's a lot. It's a lot of Aelin color schemes. It's
Mm.
a lot. It's
Well, the green
very,
and gold isn't like it's really turquoise. That's Aelin, but now we see
yeah,
turquoise. So,
yeah,
um, also I noted one thing right before that. Where does it say this? I think it's interesting that the promise is the thing that's keeping her calm. Like it was only the high face problem to live promise to live out my days in Prithian instead of dying that kept me from being sick at the thought about being their next meal.
yeah,
So I don't know. I just said I always note instances where we see promise and the power of promise, and I also when I was reading this, I was like, who's why are we trusting people like this and people
yeah.
say shit? But I don't know. I thought it was interesting. But yeah, also okay. Why is she so upset about a turquoise dress? Especially if we're bringing the hierarchy thing into it. Like this, why is this should be the least of her
Well,
worries?
she's not mad about a dress, but she doesn't want to wear the dress because you can't run and fight in a dress.
Does she say that here?
Yeah, I hadn't worn a dress in years. I wasn't about to start, not when escape was my main priority.
Okay.
I wouldn't be able to move freely in a gown.
Okay, I must have just missed that on the reread. Okay, okay, that's at least I was like, dude,
Yeah, Tamlin picks up on that too when Lucian's like, "Why you wearing pants, my dude?" And he's like, "Cause she can't run in a fucking dress, dude. Like, she's not stupid."
it's funny. Okay. Well, I really just didn't read that line. Um,
Just saying, the green and gold
yeah, it's
everywhere,
really it's
everywhere.
constant. I'd say I don't know if there's anybody else who has a more consistent color scheme, you know?
Reese, he always wears black.
Yeah, but black is also kind of a non-color that's like so like green and gold is so specific, you know?
Yes.
Like and
Very
more
Mardi
wears
Gras.
white.
Just feel like Tamlin's like he's got the mask on, it's got the gold and the turquoise and the
He's a
and the
party boy.
amethyst. Yeah, right. He's got some fuckboy energy going on. Like it just feels
Yeah.
very sorry to people. I've never been to Mardi Gras, so I'm being an asshole. But like the like stereotypical Mardi Gras party, like that's what it feels like right now.
It
You're
it
just like,
gives he gives spring break asshole vibes is, like, what I think, yeah.
for sure.
Um,
I think we're also just jaded older women who are like, see right through this nonsense.
yeah.
Um, I do like that she like pulls her clothes out and she's like, you want to wear this? Because it's not. It's so
Alice is
fucked up.
so sassy.
Yeah, she's like, this is what you want to wear because it fell apart the second it touched water. You nasty little bitch.
Yeah. I know, I like Alice. I like how she humors her. She's like, "You know what? You wanna wear this? Okay, let me show you."
Yeah, cool.
Um,
Let's go. Put it on.
yeah, it's funny. Okay, one other thing that I noticed kind of like towards let's see. I mean, I just, any mention of seasons, especially when we're in a seasonal court. She says, Alice says, "You're hardly more than skin and bones." She said her fingers luxurious against my scalp. And then Feyre responds, "Winter does that to poor mortals." I said, fighting to keep the sharpness from my tongue. And I just am like thinking, like, okay, we're in spring court. Spring is the symbolic, metaphorical end to
Mhm.
winter. I don't know, something to just know it's not really like, oh my god, what a revelation. But I also think it's interesting because it's the relief.
Is this where Feyre looks at herself in the mirror and is like, I'm not ugly, but damn, I really do not look all that great either? Or is that the next chapter?
I think it's later. Yeah, I don't think it's here yet. Because I think it's yeah, I
Yeah,
think
yeah,
it's
it's the
later.
next one. Yes, the next chapter.
Yeah. But, I also think it's that part was interesting to me just because, like, so spring is like this relief from the depths of winter, which is what Tamlin is to her in this book, but in the grand scheme of things, he's not a relief. He's like, he's a winter himself, and Reese is
Yeah.
the true, like, spring. So it's kinda interesting that's, like, I don't know, especially since she will starve in the next book, and she says that winter does that to mortals, and the thing that Reese always notices is that she's fucking starving.
Oh,
I
that's
don't know.
fun.
I
Yeah,
just
that's fun.
yeah.
Sorry. It's not fun.
Yeah.
She's starving. That sucks, but I do
It's
like
not
that.
fun.
Um,
It's interesting, yeah. Yeah.
I highlighted on page 56. So first off, she's like asking about she's like, will you wear the dress now? And she's like, no, thank you. And so she returns with trousers and a tunic. She's talking about the color, it's a bit fancy, blah, blah, blah. But then in the next one, she's saying, it had to cost a fortune is sort of the context that we're getting. It says
Oh, yeah, yeah.
I was too young to remember much before my father's downfall. And then here's where my highlighting begins. He'd tolerated me enough to allow me to loiter about his office and sometimes even explain various goods and their worth, the details of which I'd long since forgotten. Why is it always tolerated? He tolerated you?
Yeah,
Because
that's
it's not like he
interesting.
tolerated me in his workspace, right? It's not like he tolerated that I came in. Like, no, he tolerated me enough to allow me to loiter around his office. And yet,
Yeah.
and yet, she's all,
She is all yeah, what
right?
is she
Like,
all?
how just feels so weird. Like, I wrote,
And they
like,
seem so
tolerated. Why does she?
friendly besides
Yeah,
that.
yeah, and I was just like, why does she not feel love, right? Never does she talk about her parents loving her. And
Yeah.
so even before she's literally starving, she's already has been in a world that's starved for affection. And I
Mhm.
think it makes Tamlin all the easier to get her to fall for him. Like, yeah, she's stubborn, she doesn't say I love you, yada yada. Well, it's because we need 200 more pages. And we need the trials, right? Otherwise the book is boring. But I feel like it's right, the starvation, when you start to dig deeper into how she describes things, I feel like the starvation goes a lot more than just hunger.
Yeah, yeah.
Like, she's
And
starved
that
for
explains
human
the
contact.
sisters.
She's starved for
Mhm.
human contact, she's starved for love, like all those sorts of camaraderie. And again, right, she's starved from the pyramid of needs.
Yeah, yeah, within each level, yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. Okay, the last thing I noted is that we don't know Tamlin's name yet. We learned Lucian's name. Tamlin knows
Oh,
Feyre's name.
we get
Lucian knows
Alice.
Feyre's name, but she learns Tamlin's name in Alice. She learns Tamlin's name in the next chapter. And again, I'm just tracking anything with names and especially who tells, how they tell, when, who get, telling people's names for other people. I don't know. I just thought it was
Does
kind of
he
interesting.
say, "My name is Tamlin"?
I think okay, it's on the first page of
Oh,
chapter
okay.
no, 59. I think actually overhears Lucien say it, yeah.
Lucian says it, and then Tamlin looks annoyed.
Yeah.
But we'll get there on chapter 7 next week. Um,
But I think it's interesting because we introduced to him, but we don't know his name, and
yeah.
this is his introduction chapter, really. Although I guess the
I
he's been here.
The last thing I highlighted on page 57 is she huffed a laugh. So this is Alice.
Mhm.
If you're wise, you'll keep your mouth shut and your ears open. It'll do you more good here than a loose tongue. And keep your wits about you. Even your senses will try to betray you here. And so I wrote in there like already an ally or just a part of the agenda.
Both.
Right? Sure, right? Like she
Mhm.
knows what Feyre needs to be.
Yeah, and she gets pissed at her when she fails at it, when she sees her,
Yeah.
later. Yeah, but I do she always seems to have a lot of compassion for her too, so I just think she probably just feels bad for her too,
Also, I
so
think this speaks to this is an interesting thing to reread. I tried not to cringe at the warning. Alice went on. Some folks are bound to be upset about it. What folks? It's three people in here, but whatever. So, some folks are bound to be upset about on Andres. Yet, if you ask me, he was a good sentinel, but he knew what he would face when he crossed the wall. Knew he'd likely find trouble, and the others understood the terms of the treaty too, even if they might resent your presence here, thanks to the mercy of our master. Ew. So keep your head down. None of them will bother you, though Lucian could do with some snapping at him if you're courageous enough, which is funny. But I feel like it's already telling us that, like, everything that's happening here is so orchestrated to, like, she's the only one who is not aware of what's happening.
mhm,
Every single person is well aware of what the curse is because it's been 49 years of the curse. They all know what they were going out to do. They all know that he like volunteered to go over the wall. He knew what was going to happen. This is best case scenario, him going over the wall.
mhm,
Right? So she's like, yeah,
yeah,
look, people are going to be mad because he died and that sucks, but he knew what he was doing. We all knew what he was doing. And his sacrifice will be accepted. And so just keep your head down and don't fuck it up.
yeah.
Although if you wanna be a dick to Lucian, that's fine because he's kind of an ass.
Yeah, I just as you were saying that, I thought of something else, I can't remember what it was now, oh, I think it's like, it's also another she's the only one who doesn't know the full thing, but I would say in the second book, it's just constant, like, she's in a prison, she can't do shit, she's not allowed to do anything, and here, this is where we see the Spring Court, it's like the heyday of the Spring Court for these books, and it kind of feels nice and sort of has free and she is sort of free, like, she goes to find the Naga, and Tamlin
Yeah.
wasn't watching her that closely, and so she does have more freedom, but essentially her entire premise of being here is the illusion of choice, and she's been orchestrated to do all these things as well, so it's kind of interesting that the place where we think is an actual time in the Spring Court where she is free, she's actually still not free at all because she doesn't have any
Yeah.
choice in this,
I
which
also think it's
obviously.
really, really easy. I think Tamlin has a really easy task ahead of him, okay? He finally has a girl who doesn't like Faye and killed his friend. So, boom, we're on the right track. Now I do some weird yada yada manipulation. She's back at my house. She's got to live here forever. So, one, I got her here and she can't go anywhere. Yay. Easiest way to make her fall in love with him is to give her the things that or seemingly give her the
Yeah.
things that she didn't have at home. And it's very easy to see. He walks in, he sees the shithole she lives in. Clearly, he can probably already pick up on the dynamics of what's happening there, right? The sisters all like, right? The one sister cowers or like cowers behind the other, and there's the protective thing, but it's Feyre who's up in the front being like, fuck it, I'll take it. And like,
Yeah.
like, I just feel like it's not hard to kind of figure out that she's desperate, she's destitute, she's hungry. Like, I don't know if how great her family is, but like they didn't seem all that great. And
Yeah,
so
she's a
it's
deer with a
very
broken leg.
yeah, and so it's very easy. Like he doesn't have a hard task in front of him. Also, you're in a fucking magical land where things look pretty. It's real easy to get people to do shit when things look pretty. Like it's just the nature of humans, right? Pretty people get away with a lot of shit. And so
Yeah.
it's like, okay, so feed her some good food and let her get some good sleep, right? And on a nice big bed and let somebody else do her hair and give her a bath every day and then let her walk around a little bit and see some fun stuff, but still let her feel like she's brave and she's strong because we're just going to let her go play with a naga for a little bit. So she still isn't losing herself, right? She can still hunt. She can still fight for herself. And then, take her to a weird pool and hang out with her half naked, and like I just feel like it's such an easy task for him, and they're making it sound like he's got his work cut out for him. No, like again, this is going to be done for you, Tamlin.
Yeah.
You
Well,
found a
and
girl who's starving, you feed her, she falls in love with you, easy peasy.
yeah, to be fair, it probably sounds harder, especially he doesn't seem like he gets a lot of bitches, you know. I'm just kidding. But like it probably seems harder cuz it sounds like I make her love me,
Oh
but
man.
from like
Well, no, he's getting all the
awareness.
bitches. Callum Nye
Oh.
happens every year.
Well, but that is that getting bitches if they gotta. It's not. There's no riz involved. There
There's
is
no risk.
there's just, "Hey, the earth says you gotta fuck me." And, so not
I
you know,
wanna know if
lower
that's
my
a
confidence.
fucking scam. It's the only like, right? It's the only
Wanna
course,
see the receipts of how this improved? I need a quarterly report of
like
how this improved the earnings for the crop.
I'm sorry. This and like they say it's like, oh well, it's definitely for the spring court, but like it also kind of works for the rest of the continent. Fucking prove it. You're gonna tell me that Valeris is replenished because you fucked some random chick in a cave? Come on. And like I just feel
Yeah.
like it just feels like such fuckboy energy that's just like, hey, you know what we should do right now? We should replenish this earth. Right? We should
Oh,
we should we should make this reborn. That's the
yeah.
kind of energy. That's the kind of power we got, you
That
and I.
is some shit some guy just said, "Hey."
Yes. And also, I think it's really, really convenient that Callum Nye is going to happen because if he's nice enough to her and gets her even a little bit interested, the easiest way to tip someone over into being like, fuck that, I want this guy is to make him jealous.
Oh,
Everyone
yeah.
knows it, right?
Yeah.
You play a little hard, you play a little flirty, play a little hard to get, then you play a lot hard to get and piss them off, and then boom.
Yeah. That's true. That is
It's
funny
just
how I
all
was
of
all
it
about.
is just like all of it is just like really simple dating shit.
Yeah.
Says the person who hasn't been in the dating world for 12 years. But regardless.
Hell yeah, brother. I know, I'm
Yeah.
like 11 years or some shit, yeah.
Yeah, I can't even imagine.
Cool. So then we'll meet next. We'll get to chapter 7. We're finally getting into like the actual
Dude,
like
I
story
was
now.
looking at there's like what 54 chapters in this book, and I'm like, dude, that's a year. We have a
That's a
year
year.
of
Well, and some of these maybe I'll read ahead and see how because some of these are like blah 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 chapters. Although we did just
yes.
this is kind of one of those too, but then we had a lot to talk about. Um, but yeah, we made it through.
Yes, I'm so excited.